This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on here, Raju. How are you doing today?
Oh, great. Thanks, Phillip. Good morning to you and Jason. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, our favorite question to ask when we're kicking things off, just for a quick kickoff, is do you yourself come from a family of entrepreneurs, working professionals, creatives? What kind of family do you come from?
I come from a family of working professionals. Mostly not too many people have started businesses. So this is an adventure.
Okay. And what do you attribute your choice to go a different route in your life to?
It is just getting tired with the status quo. You know, the drive for transformation has always been there. So every once in a while, I would think about getting into doing something meaningful and different than the steady, day job. But I think the time has come where I've paid my college kids. My sons got tuition, and I'm done with all that. They're all gainfully employed, and so I thought this was the time to do it. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, you did what you had to do. You're like, it's time to go into business and do all the things I wanted to do.
Exactly. Now is the real work.
Okay. And what has this journey been like so far to transition into this space for you?
It's been great. It's been great. I've been hunkered down for the last couple of years working on development. And so it's a little different because you get out of the routine of going to work, coming back. So it's a change. But it's a welcome change. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's wonderful to do. To do these things, and it's meaningful.
Now, when you transitioned over, was it easy to sort of just pick up and go and get clients, or did you find yourself having to learn a whole series of skills you didn't even know you were going to need?
Well, so I have to learn. I have to learn a whole set of skills. I am just getting ready to set up my first beta customer. And so far it's been a journey of developing what I had in mind and kind of getting to a stage where I can now trial it with customers. So I'm just getting set to, do this with my first beta customer. So we'll see how the journey goes from here.
Yeah, we'll have to check in with you, man. I think it's an exciting time, especially because it sounds like it took some time to really map out your offering and all the things that a lot of people are like, you know what, we'll figure it all on the way. Let's just go and get started. I mean, Jason has been in the military for like 20 plus years, right? And at the same time, he ran multiple businesses. And at some point, he's like, I got to just hunker down and I'm just going to go into business. But I don't want to tell his story for him. But I know that we're both excited about hearing the steps that you're taking and where you're going to go, given that you've paid your dues, man. So I want to check in with Jason and see what he thinks so far about your story.
Sure.
Yeah. The cool thing is you're at the point where you're just ripping the Band-Aid off, right? So that's where you're at, right? So
yeah.
So the key is don't take all the arrows in the back if you don't have to. Right? Because there's these are those things where oddly enough, is most of our audience that we speak to, you're the audience that we're speaking to most of the time is, the the new business owners that are not that you're new, I'm just saying that you're new into launching something new, right?
Absolutely. I am.
And the beauty behind that is a lot of people make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And the reality is you don't have to as a business owner, and you can learn from other people that have already been down this route like a bunch of times.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And
right.
A lot of people try to reinvent the wheel. It's, I don't know, call it what you can use the word confidence if you want. Really, it's just ego. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you set that ego aside, right,
yeah.
and just say, you know what? So I can either make a lot of mistakes or I can find somebody to help. And that's key and important for, you know, maybe the younger generation is a little more open to that, but I think, you know, the older generations of that ownership and it's my baby and all that kind of stuff, right? But if a lot of the older generation could just get over some of that.
Yeah, well, I agree, including myself. You know, it's very true. Because you're set in your ways and you have to disrupt that. I mean, part of this is a disruption to the way I've always been doing things. I want, you know, that's what this is. It's a great point you make, Jason. I think somebody said the art of intelligent living is seeking help.
It's true.
Yes, it is. I love that. True. And you're right. It is very symbolic of the rebellion to say, you know what, I'm gonna go and start a business. And for me, your professional career, were you in the transformation space sort of before jumping out to do it yourself?
Yes. So a lot of I was heading a quality organization for a $1 billion company. And so I had a team of people working in 4 different plants. And a lot of my experience in that leadership role on what we can do to truly transform. That's kind of behind what this is. It's informed by a lot of my experience. And as Jason mentioned, a lot of the things that I did right, but also a lot of the things that I didn't do right. You know, it's like you learn from everything.
I see. And if I understand correctly, when we're talking about the transformation space, are we talking about workplace culture and sort of like management and
yes,
and being able to delegate things between maybe board executives and the more functional individual contributors, and you were somewhere in the middle managing all that?
Yeah. So if you're in a company and if you are among the folks whose work is not standard, and that means these are the architects, the engineers, the marketing people, sales, leaders, management, all of the folks that designers, developers, you know, all the folks that have to deliver a company's growth and profitability. When you look at their world, if you're in that, very often you find people stressed out. They feel that they don't have enough time to do what they need to get done. If you're a CEO, you're worried about margins. You're worried about delivering or taking on more projects. Can your resources deliver all of that? You know, am I missing out on things? There's that fear and anxiety. And so if you're in that boat, the solution that I'm talking about is what you need. And it addresses the root cause of some of this. So I can get into it in our conversation, but that's what the solution is. Solution is about, if you look at a person's daily schedule, you know, in work, it's filled with meetings. It's meetings after meetings. A lot of those meetings are planning meetings. Either they're behind schedule on certain things, there are priorities, emergencies, things. There's so many things that are competing for people's time. You know, as customers, suppliers, partners, emergencies, events, initiatives, projects, tasks, on and on and on. So how do you manage that chaos and how do you, come out of that successfully? And that's a challenge in many companies. A lot of companies waste a lot of resources trying to manage this. And that's where my solution is.
I see. So you want to be at the intersection of people's productivity and, well, we should say planned productivity versus realized or actualized productivity.
Actual, yes.
So similar to the way the C-suite focuses on, planned revenue versus actualized revenue. For you, it's productivity, which directly ties to revenue.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly right.
I understand where it's at. I understand where that's at. It's very reminiscent of, I think it was a book I read called The 4 Principles of Execution, where everybody's got a plan. It's kind of like Mike Tyson, actually. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Exactly. Those plans go out the door.
You can know all the kung fu you think you know, and then and then you realize you're running a business.
Exactly. And your people have to execute it. And when you have people that are running between pillar and post every day, the execution suffers, your plans suffer. You've got to solve this problem at the root cause. And the root cause, when you look at it, is very simple. It's because the plans are not connected with the realities of people's workload. If you can manage that, you'll be really successful. And that's what the solution is about.
It's funny. I remember being a part of a startup where every meeting we had, there was a new priority, completely different from the last one that they just told me was the most important thing. And I was like, so what do I do about that? Where we're doing that one too.
Isn't that frustrating? You have no control over your delivery because you're pulled in 2 directions.
Yeah.
The life of a startup, though, right?
Yeah,
there.
right.
Yeah.
So we're doing that and that and that. Yeah, and we're also short-staffed. And you forget about it.
Yeah. In a startup, it's a little different, but there are places where the C-suite is, and it's nobody's fault. The management needs to come up with new projects and they've got to grow. I mean, they're under pressure to grow. At the same time, they have no insights on whether they can pull it off or not. So they also need insight. So this addresses that need as well.
I like that you bring that up because you're right. In a startup environment, people would be surprised to find that a little pushback from an employee might go a long way, right? Because the C-suite has no idea. They're so caught up in whatever they're doing. They're like, we're going to make this a priority. And most employees are just like, okay, because they don't care. They have no vested interest. As long as you keep paying me, the company fails, whatever. Right?
That's true.
So it's invaluable to have people on your team who are willing to tell you, no, that's not going to work.
Exactly.
And then that might cause frustration. But if the CEO is worth their salt or the C-suite is worth their salt, they'll be like, okay, wait a minute. Well, first of all, thank you for letting me know that that's how you feel. Because the last thing I want to do is have you go, okay, and you didn't understand a word I just said, right? I mean, we glazed over the fact, but in these notes I have here, you have over 30 years of experience doing this kind of work to begin with. Right? Like, so it's not like you just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go into right. It's too late in the game for you to just go, I'm gonna go into rocket science.
Now this is grounded in experience. It's grounded in running several performance improvement programs in different companies. What works, what doesn't work. One surprising thing is if you're driving performance improvement or quality improvement, what makes that happen is not so much the quality management system, it's the culture. Culture is a bigger driver of execution or change than any management system you can put in place. It's people's attitude that delivers excellence. And for that, you have to treat people with respect, and you also have to give them time to do their jobs. And so it's a balance between having ambitious goals and being able to pull it off in realistic, meaningful plans. And so this bridges that gap or that whatever.
Raju, I'm really curious. What does the next quarter look like for you? What are you excited about? What are you going after besides the beta client?
Well, I'm I'm in a spot where I really need to have more conversations, and this is a wonderful platform. I really appreciate this. To have a conversation of ideas, because what happens is transformation is all about assimilating what the issue is and then driving the right solution. Now, I do have a technology platform that facilitates all that, but that doesn't solve the problem. It's the assimilation of what is aiding my business or my growth or my profits. And what do I do about it? That's the conversation I need to have. And then the solution comes along. And so that's really my goal, is to talk to more people. And now I have a platform where I can demonstrate that.
I see. Yeah, there are many businesses out there that don't even know they have the problem because they just see all the problems at once instead of being able to identify this is actually one of many problems, but it's a key problem in my organization, in my operations, that is affecting my overall bottom line. And so you being able to get front and center. So this is about not only testing a business idea that you know should work hypothetically, but also about marketing and positioning. And I see. It's a crucial time. It's a crucial time in the business. I can understand where that's coming from. So looking back, do you think you could have started this if you didn't have the 30 years of experience?
No.
Kind of business?
No. Here is the core idea, and this comes from experience. What I found in my work is this. When plans are disconnected from the realities of people's workload, it sets in motion a perpetual cycle of waste. This wastes resources tremendously in every company, and this is the problem that needs to be addressed fundamentally. And that insight comes from years of trying different things and figuring out where things fail. And this is the crux of it. And for me, going through what I've gone through in terms of different companies kind of solidifies in my mind, based on data, what the issue is. And the issue is what I just said. It's the fundamental disconnect between plans and people's workload. And I can illustrate, if you indulge me, if I can just spend a minute explaining what I mean by that. If the plans are disconnected from my workloads, now I'm under tremendous pressure to deliver. I have 4 or 5 things to deliver. Then I make mistakes because I'm rushing through things. When I make mistakes, then the management reacts, which means it's either an internal production failure or an external something escapes, whatever it is. Now more resources are pulled in to address that issue because we've got to fix it. When you pull in more resources, now you're even more behind the plans. And now you're under even more pressure. Now you again have to rush through things. You make mistakes, pull in more resources to address them. You're even under you're now even more behind plans. The cycle goes on. You got to break that cycle and connect the plans realistically to people's workload and never get into this cycle. You got to break that cycle. And that's really the core idea here.
I have a perfect client for you.
Oh, that'd be great. Jason.
It's called the United States government. Perfect client for you.
Perpetual waste.
All right.
I can think of a number of companies that I've seen, been a part of, that have that exact same problem. And it's like the more they throw at it, the worse it gets.
It gets. Mm-hmm. It gets.
Oh man, that's funny. The U.S.
So that's what I found, and we can all identify right away all our experiences. Yeah.
So then, Raju, if you had to make it plain, and you had to have some, just like your go-to advice, like what keeps you going, knowing that this is just starting out, right? And not just that, throughout your career, what's one phrase or philosophy or what have you that's just kept you going during and through all the obstacles?
Well, if it's the right thing to do, then you've got to work on it. It's just, I think that's the most important. It's like busy activity does not equate to progress. It's meaningful activity that equates to progress. And I think you reach a point in life where you're saying, okay, I got to stop this now.
You said Jason's favorite words. Busy is like a 4-letter word, right? It's just not what people should be. And
to be productive, not busy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because busy is absolute BS, man.
It's
like I'm busy on social media, but what are you doing?
I could be busy doing a lot of things, but they're not profit generating activities. That I can assure you. When you're zooming across Facebook for 3 hours and go, oh crap, it's 3:00. Whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I found people hopping from meetings to meetings in company. And I'm going, what are you doing in these meetings? Well, they need my input. And that input could be like 1 minute and 1 hour meeting. It's like, you can just send that in email and be done with that meeting. I mean,
well, I used to have this saying, because I worked up at Army level staff before I retired. And I used to say, oh, how many meetings do we have today? Oh, there's 4. So in other words, we have a meeting for the meeting for the meeting for the meeting. That's for the big meeting, right?
That's so true.
It's just a pile of meetings to finally get to the general's meeting.
It's so true.
Same thing. It's no different.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fundamental waste of oxygen.
And it's funny, I've been in meetings, to your point, preparing for a tough meeting from the boss because we didn't perform. It's like, how do you answer them? Well, what a waste of 2 days sitting in meetings trying to come up with answers for poor performance. It doesn't solve anything.
Wow. Which ties back to the workplace culture. If the workplace culture was right, you wouldn't have to have a whole meeting with a team to figure out how you're going to get out of this one from your leader, as opposed to just going, you know what, it didn't work, but we're already working on solutions. That's the meeting.
That's the meeting. That's
and in fact, we'll email you. Yeah, we'll email you and let you know. That's
yeah, exactly. If you're in a meeting, you're not working.
Yeah. No. I want to see what's really going on from every single one here. Like, wow.
Yeah. To be fair, there are some meetings that do add value and people are discussing ideas. Those we're not talking about those meetings. These are these administrative planning meetings that don't add value.
No, I love it, man. So this is a great point to just break away for a second and give a huge shout out to someone who made this episode and this conversation possible. And that is a company by the name of ProShark with Joel Phillips. And whether you're looking for new tech to bring into your tech stack, or you're just starting out and have no idea the best way to set up your tech stack. And we're talking from shopping cart, website type of thing to being able to set up your cybersecurity, you name it, whatever it is, ProShark can help you do that and help save you hours of painstaking research to try to find what's going to work and make my operation just fluid. And how can I get a tech stack that's going to keep me in touch with the client, but also give me a home base where I can look at everything that I'm doing, all of that. If you want to do any of that, all you have to do is go to ProShark, and you can go to proshark.com, tell them the War Room sent you. And this includes marketing tools and everything. Like I'm talking all of that.
That's great.
ProShark.com, tell them War Room sent you, and they'll give you the red carpet treatment. Now, with that said, let's come on in back to the conversation we were having and close it out, I believe. Is that correct, Jason? We're at the grand finale now.
We are at the grand finale.
So the grand finale, Raju, is if you could have invited anyone to sit in on this conversation we had today, who would you have loved to have had here, and why them specifically?
Yeah, okay. There's a person called Eliyahu Goldratt. I don't know if you've heard of him. He wrote the book, the goal. And his it's about theory of constraints based management. And he wrote a subsequent book on, I think it's called The Critical Link or The Critical Chain. It's about project management, again, with resource constraints and all of that. I would love to have a conversation with him, because I think what the technology solution and the solution in general is talking about is how do you provide people the time and space to deliver excellence. And a lot of his work and thoughts are about how do you remove these constraints and how do you manage these constraints. So he'd be a great person that I'd love to have a chat with. Or
yeah, I feel like I've heard of this book before. So I'm an avid bookworm, so I'm always looking to hear what people are recommending. So I really appreciate that. With that said, I think it's been an absolutely valuable conversation. Number one, everyone should be excited about hearing. I mean, people have like I think this is a regular thing you see on social media where people talk about it. It's like, oh, we have baby showers and we celebrate people starting families and this and that. Rarely do we ever celebrate people starting a business. In fact, they are the least celebrated people, are the ones who are starting businesses until they finally succeed. And then it's like, we believed in you all along, literally not seeing all the blood, sweat, tears. And that's why things like this exist. So I really am excited for you. I know Jason is too. You have a really a strong core philosophy that's reminiscent of people who are doing it right. So I can't wait to see what it is you do. I want to stay connected with you, but I don't close the show here. It's actually tradition that Jason closes the show. So I'll let him close us out, but it's been a pleasure, man.
Same here, Phillip. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
I got to tell you, this is a needed space because we're right in the thick of all that, right? We're in that transformational space of, do we stay working in a cubicle, or do we work at home? Or there's this identity crisis a lot of businesses are going through right now, trying to figure all that out, and then you have people like Elon Musk that's like, well, hey, you either come sit at your desk or you're fired, right? It's like and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with him that it's the right or wrong thing to do. Everybody has to make their own choices for their own company, but we are also in a very different time. And that time right now is dictated a lot by what an employee wants to do.
Yeah.
Not what they have to do, because they will leave you in a heartbeat. And go somewhere that they can do things that they want to do, and they can have a flexible schedule, and they can have all that stuff. And I've had that in my life for 6-7 years already in my life, so I understand it. And I know Phillip's had that in his life for pretty much his whole life. And once you have that, it's pretty hard to go back, right? So now we've asked these people, well, do it this way. And it's like, oh, just kidding, and that's hell on company culture right there, for sure. And, when you talk about waste and abuse and fraud and all this kind of stuff, well, what better way to treat your employees if you can just say, hey, if you're getting your work done, I don't really care if you're golfing at 3.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to talk about having somebody motivated? That's motivation right there.
These are highly compensated folks too, so you really want to use them well.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's kind of my closing thoughts there. Thanks for being on the show. We appreciate your time. Thanks for spending the 30 minutes with us today, and we wish you like all the wealth in the world. Take all that 30 years of experience and pour it where it needs to go, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Jason, giving me this opportunity. It's been wonderful talking to you, and look forward to interacting more in the future.
Yeah.
There it is, brother.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.